Some strategic adjustments you can make, and suddenly things just start flowing a little bit smoother. Really hard to have that happen in TVZ. I totally agree. We are going to be heading into that first game of the Terran versus Zerg. As we start up here on the top left-hand side of the map from Talon Esports, he is Dark.
And to the bottom right for Team Liquid in the blue, he is Cure.
I know that this is the winners side of it's the winners stage. It's the upper bracket, so these players still have a lot of chances even if they lose this. But I just want to note, the loser of this is going to go on to face either Rainer or Hero. It's not a fun place to be. This is a really, really stacked lineup, I feel.
I think he's going to face Rainer.
Rainer? Yeah, I think so too, but I didn't want to say it for sure.
Because then Spirit would go versus Hero.
Yeah.
We understand brackets. We've been doing this for a long time.
Every time I try to make a prediction on how a bracket's going to go, and admin comes has a nice little talking to me afterwards.
There's literally no other way.
I know.
Spirit win. Okay, anyways. So, yeah, but you're right. Whether it was Hero or Rainer, either way, neither one of these players would really want to be going into that match. I think that Rainer has a very good chance of winning versus Cure, as that is maybe the matchup, and then ZVZ in general is, Dark goes down. It's tough. Interesting, we see a lot of scouting for a 2-Rax. I guess going into this game, he doesn't want Cure to get that quick start because that is one of the builds that Cure did show versus Rogue. He had a lackluster first game, then boop, 2-Rax, back in it. And the third game went his way kind of because of that. We also have a very greedy opening from Dark as well, so we really need to make sure that he wasn't being cheesed. He is going 3-hatch, no gas. So that drone, it definitely lost some mining time, no doubt about it, doing what it did, but it was going to go to the third base anyway. It's something that Cure is going to scout, but, you can't change it into a 2-Rax now, can you?
No, he certainly cannot. And the Reaper's going to make its way forward. It's going to head straight over the natural. Remember that there is not exactly the Queens out just yet, and it's just going to be slow lings for a little bit. So we'll see what damage the Reaper can actually get done. It does do its little poking and prodding and stuff. But Reactor coming down on the factory back at home, it does look like it's going to be a pretty normal looking setup so far for Cure as well. Yeah,
3cc, no second gas. So he is setting up as macro. Oh, I like it. I like it. It's a little bit of counter greed, putting that on location. Very dangerous to do if the Zerg is getting speed, which let's just say 90% of the games they do in this matchup. So he sees the fast third hatch. He picks up on what's going down. He says third CC on location. That's a little bit more of an edge for me, even though I was already going for a greedy build. Any Terran can tell you how much nicer it feels to have it on location.
Yeah, especially when you're able to just immediately morph into an orbital command. You just get that mule a little bit faster. You get everything going a little bit faster. It feels so nice. But for now, I mean, Cure's just going to be able to sit back and relax because with no Zergling speed out on the map, there's just really not any chance that Dark's going to have anything out on the map besides Overlords. Right,
yeah. You can even just, not even bother with Hellions, I suppose, defensively, but obviously now you're like, well, can I do them offensively?
Yeah.
They don't have any speed, right? Usually, you see a little bit of a wall to help out on that problem because the lack of something speedy to chase these things down could absolutely be a problem. What Cure might be more concerned of, though, especially if he doesn't get damage done, which, yeah, that screens are on the way. He might be more concerned about how streamlined this build is into a Roach game, and that's exactly what Dark is going into. He's going into Roaches. So that is happening later, a potential 1-1 Roach push, but then with both players doing kind of greedy build, 3cc, versus that 3-hatch, we could have that be the defining moment, and every little bit that they do better leading up to that point matters a lot. We could actually have Dark also try and go for a little bit of a poke, but then when the Banshee's on the way, it would be not useful. So 4 Roaches for a helpful defense, totally fine, right? But if he tries to make 10 and go, Cure's just going to be like, okay, I got a Banshee, what are you doing?
Yeah, just gradually lose all of your Roaches and slowly fall further behind. Not exactly going to be ideal, so I imagine those Roaches will just be chilling a little bit more at home for now because...
Yeah, I think they're going to try and, they're going to show that they could be aggressive, but they really shouldn't be.
Well, he's doing a little bit of a move out over on the other side of the map, trying to circumvent those Hellions as well so it doesn't get scouted.
Oh, no. This actually ends up really well then because the Banshees are not going to be able to return home, so the whole, I got a Banshee, no problem. Yeah. That's no longer true, actually, if the Banshee is elsewhere. Where is the darn thing?
There is another Banshee on the finds the Roaches on their journey across the map. close to worst case scenario. He's going to end up losing at least one roach, maybe two roaches over here, and it's going to be very, very annoying for Dark.
Yeah, and I would say this is less like the streamlined, scary thing that I was talking about. Not that it was a huge investment, but you could see that Dark easily could have been up way more drones, way faster, so maybe huge isn't the right word, but I mean, it's an investment. Oh, and this is actually going to be really bad. Nothing to protect the drones. Barbecue, man. We're in Texas. Let's get some.
Definitely getting quite a bit of damage done over here. 10 workers already falling. The Hellions are going to be trapped, and they are picked off there. A very satisfying little drone barbecue there. And, I mean, that plus all the roaches that were made with no real value?
Yeah, I'm actually wondering if he saw the Viking and thought that it might not be Banshees because of it. The Viking into Banshee is a very old-school build. It does... you obviously get the Viking, clear out the overloads, you get the Banshees for protection and some harassment, but most of the time nowadays it's directly into two Banshees. It used to be the standard build, Viking into two Banshees, but so you know, maybe Dark thought he could get away with it. He didn't. Now it's maybe a little awkward, but Dark, he's actually very good in awkward games. So
most certainly is.
Yeah, he's not going to go for the 1-1 roach, obviously. He's got infestation pits, but this is actually kind of feeling more like a Dark who acknowledges that this isn't the best game. And so when he does that, he tries to make a comeback happen. Not saying it's a true comeback, but it's actually kind of testy. Kier got away with so much greed. Fungals, right? Swarm host, or not swarm host, Roach Ravager Infester is the way back.
Yeah, I have to fully agree with you that I feel like it is the most Dark thing in the world to fall behind in the game, even slightly or a lot, and then just suddenly masterfully just come back in the game and win it outright. It's the strangest thing to watch, but it is really just something magical about Dark. He's just able to make magic happen in some of these games, but so far it does seem like Kier's the one that's making a lot more magic happen. He's finding drones left and right with these cloaked Banshees. He's keeping them alive, if not super duper healthy, and I mean, you can even see in the resources lost that Kier's just doing a really, really nice job with his units so far.
He absolutely is, and he's undercutting any attempted slight pressure from Dark while being basically maximum greedy himself. He even could have got a 4th on location. Obviously, that's very greedy, but he could have. He sends it over right now, so while Dark looks like he's in an okay position, we're like, you know, 77 drones, the Hive is on the way, like, you know, is this really a concern? It really is. Creep spread's not that impressive. A lot of the other upgrades are still waiting on. That was a pretty good fungal, though, and this is what Dark does. Get to those spellcasters that don't need upgrades, for instance, which Kier is very far ahead on, especially if he actually has the armor already done.
Roaches don't quite kill units or those Marines as fast as they Banelings and those Lings when they are able to get the jump on, but still manage to eventually get a cleanup on a handful of those Marines. So the pressure on the right-hand side is going to be a lot lower. The Banshees are starting to get a little bit lower on hit points as well. And Dark seems like he's mostly stabilizing here as he gets up an Ultra Cavern. He's getting up his Vipers with his Hive Tech. And finally also finishing up 1-1, which is always funny to see Hive Tech and Ultra's Cavern finishing up or coming up before 1-1 finishes.
I'm pretty sure Dark is the one I've seen most do this.
Yeah.
You're like, Chitinous Plating finishes as +1 melee.
Yeah.
It happens. Not as extreme this time around, but again, the upgrades are in a deficit by about 30 seconds, so this particular push isn't going to take advantage of that, but I still would say it's a very scary push. It's pretty streamlined here from Kier. I thought Dark was going to be more streamlined. Kier actually ended up being pretty much maximum here. He got everything he wanted. Drone damage with the Hellions, Banshees to stop any roach harassment, third to see on location, and 4th unharassed. So he can focus purely on this tank push, and there's very little volatility without Banelings. Where are they? Did we actually make them?
Baneling speed was finished up, but there's no Banelings down the map. There's just 86 Zerglings and still no Banelings being made. Infester is going to be able to throw out some fungal growth, going to be able to soften up those Marines, but that hatchery is getting so low on hit points. Here we go. Blinding Cloud's coming down on top of the stage. Lings swarming on forward. The Marines are going to continue to trade on out, though. And yes, the tanks are gone. How happy was Kier with those trades, though?
Well, his tank count seems a little low. Let's put actually a couple of more. He's currently at 2, and I guess he's bringing those forward. I don't think it's the worst, because he gets to stay in his position. A Zerg player actually pushing the Terran all the way back to their home feels so much more at ease, right? There's a lot more time to get that creep spread back. We still got a very abusive position on the high ground with very little creep spread. He's just going to go ahead and try and roll on through here, but he is off of creep, obviously. No more Banelings, but just enough came together to get Kier to skedaddle. It might still be temporary, but I don't see another army coming in the same fashion. Perhaps Dark can actually get over this this like kind of literal hump, the hill that you have to go up. You get some creep split up there, you feel a little better about it.
No, absolutely. Especially with his hatchery so low on hit points now. He really wants a little bit more leeway in terms of where he has to defend. But dropping the main base is going to be kind of annoying. Going to find a couple of drones, just force a reaction out over here from Dark, even if the medevac ends up dying. I think if Viper was looking at the parasite bomb, was like, nah, you're killing yourself anyways.
Yeah, exactly. It almost looked like Kira was like, yeah, it will die. It's fine. It's going to become a real late game then. You know, I feel like Dark had a little bit bumpier of a road, but it, you know, obviously we had no real pointed aggression, real timing, I suppose, to really take advantage. And we're just getting that late game. So Dark is accruing a bank. He's going to have multiple options of tech. He's finally getting more creep spread down the middle. I love that the Banshee is still alive and being annoying over here. That's a really thorn in the side. A big attack being set up from Dark. Wow. He is actually going to pull the trigger on this.
Yeah, he's going to try and go for a mock surround over here. It is a little bit weirdly timed as the Lings all swarming on the right-hand side, the Bailey swarming on the left-hand side, the Ultras kind of swarming in one by one, and I feel like Dark is just throwing away his army.
Yeah, he is. That's exactly what's happening. Look at the supply during that entire match. Okay, so the problem was, Dark wasn't necessarily wrong to think that could go well, but the problem was that the Lings got slaughtered in a line. There was an instant drop of 30 supply before the rest of the army was there. And as good as Ultras are versus a mostly Marine army, which is I think why he thought it would go well, not if they can micro and focus fire, and you know, Ultras alone are just bad. So they were mostly alone at that point. So that was not a great trade.
Less than ideal.
Thanks, man. Fifth base up for Cure. He's working on 3-3. This is a powerful place for him to be. I did underestimate how vulnerable that could have been. He had a lot of Marines. He did not add on Marauders or Ghost yet, but Dark didn't really have the best setup.
Yeah, it felt like he was trying to catch Cure as Cure was retreating, but he just got so over-aggressive about it and saying, okay, no, I'm going to find the wraparound over here, but half of my units are engaging at a time, and
yeah,
just ended up not working out very, very well there. So Dark, he's going to have a little bit of time here to remax, so even though that was a really bad loss, and I feel like Cure should feel like he's in a pretty comfortable position right now, Dark is, again, getting the time to remax, and I do feel like when the player, when a player who's behind gets a chance to at least even up supply, certainly some possibilities open up.
It is a great equalizer, even though we know Zerg needs the extra resources to win. But it opens up the possibility when obviously a 40 army supply deficit is just, it's a numbers game. But Kira, as you said, should feel confident, because basically that's the difference of feeling like you're constantly on the ropes, unable to expand, and the Zerg has all the map, to the opposite, which is that Kira is the one that's pushing. Kira is the one that has the map, and Dark is the one that's feeling a lot of pressure as Kira's 3-3 finishes, and he adds Ghosts, and perhaps even maybe some Liberators. See a lot of Starports being added on. Big ol' run by could reset the momentum. Kira seems on top of it, however. He's got double center tower. Doesn't let him into the natural. Has to recognize the third base for an extended period of time. Okay, well, they didn't let them into the natural, but they just busted on through. That is a large chunk of the Zerg army, however. Keep that in mind as Kira eyes a potential base trade.
Yeah, and you know, I have to say, Dark has already been able to find, what, effectively 2 bases, going for the third into the main base, which may shut down some of the production. So he's going to be absolutely losing a lot of units over here, but he just wants to trade out the best that he can, slow down this army. Is this going to be the correct call here for Dark?
This is really difficult. I would say typically base trades do not favor the Terran in this situation because they have to be speedy, they have to be fast, and they have to move on to creep. So Banelings play a huge part here. But the Baneling number has always been very low. I believe 10 only finished recently. That's not going to affect the game too much. 6 Ultras about to pop, but where are they popping from? 1 Ultra at a time into the meat grinder of the Terran army would cost Dark way too much, because then he would be only left with the army in that corner we see there in the picture-in-picture, and that wouldn't be good enough against a standing Terran.
Such a weird situation now as the main base is getting evacuated here. Dark is actually up in supply, and a lot of it is an army supply, but he's lost his spawning pool, he's lost his Ultra Cavern, he's lost his Infestation Bay, he's lost his Hive, he's lost nearly everything. There's only a couple of bases on the north side.
Oh, he burrowed the Banelings. I didn't even see him get burrow. Oh, I totally missed that. And of course, even though it's on creep, that's usually more obvious. There's no scans being put down, but they don't get the burrowed Banelings. They just pop on up here. Bit of a concave achieved and an exit from the medevacs as well. Means that Kira will like a club and a spore crawler in the middle of nowhere. What? Oh, they almost got 2 medevacs, but they got 1 full one.
And, you know, if you look at the supply right now, yes, Kira still does have an army supply, but so much of it is just medevacs at this point.
You're
I
right.
feel like Dark actually just has not just a small supply lead, he has a massive supply lead in Army.
Yeah, you're right. And Dark was also he was careful about making sure the ultras didn't go one at a time. So he actually has the Army consolidate together. The same thing could not happen for Cure because he didn't have any production. It's been entirely camped. Tries to go over to Planetary to, safeguard the production. That gets destroyed. One more Planetary might be a little too hard. Oh, two. I'm sorry. That was so quick. Yeah, that's going to be a hard break. So the game is going to reset to a degree. And I think it actually is winnable for both players. No, Dark. No.
That's a bold maneuver, Cotton.
Yeah, exactly. Any other situation, though, without that SimCity and double Planetary, I could see it, but...
I mean, Ultras can break through buildings quite quickly in Planetary Fortresses. Just when it's that well defended, it's hard.
Not with the Army waiting, and obviously Cure's anticipating the attack. Like, it's not going to happen. Ooh, could we have a Gumiho special? Could Vikings just kill all the Overlords?
I mean, truly, there really are just queens, and all of the tech was reset. So.
I would love to see it. For those of you who don't know, like 10 years ago, Gumiho won a game by killing like 20 Overlords because there's just no anti-air. He demolished his fire. It was a great game. This is very familiar to a game that was played in GSL, I believe, right? It wasn't on Oceanborn, but I remember it getting really down to the wire. Both players somewhat familiar with this, but I do give the scrappier games to Dark a lot of the time. He often finds himself here. He actually says he didn't really like late game, but he just seems to find himself in it all the time.
Queen's getting a chance to fire at the Vikings. Might be able to snipe off one of them. It's just going to get softened up. Is there command center in the main base of Cure? Is there still just the... Okay, cool. It's still got a little bit of mining there, too. Amazing.
Cure was able to rebuild any technology that he needed, so basically the Ghost Academy, right? So he's got 5 Ghosts on the way. His economy isn't great. It's 22 SCVs and Mules, but he invested so much early on that is really paying dividends right now. If the beginning of this game wasn't so fast, it didn't skip multiple tempo beats of TVZ, Cure is probably dead at this point. But he has the extra bases, he has the safety to go back to, and the production to get reset.
And how, honestly, do Ultralists break through this?
They don't.
That SimCity feels impossible to break through for an Ultralist.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. Ultras will not do the trick against SimCity with a Terran paying attention, basically, getting the Ghost Snipes, running away from the Banelings. If Cure moves out in the map, that is a very different story. We could have Fungals, we could have burrowed Banelings, we could have Surrounds, and that would still be devastating to him. But he did snipe that 3-3. Sorry, I did not hype that up enough, but he did kill 3-3, so Cure has an established upgrade lead for a long time.
Yep, established upgrade lead, also has that Ghost production still kicking. This singleling already finding a handful of those workers. The Marauders are going to be able to save the rest of them. I have to say, though, Dark, he has the potential to also get some pretty ridiculous creep spread going right now. I know that his queens have been a little bit busy chasing around the Vikings and everything, but I think that will actually help him also keep an eye out on what is the base count that Cure is expanding to. When is his production continuing to surge out and further forward? Yeah,
it didn't extend in the middle or to the left, but it's because he focused so much on the right. So that actually is a lot of creep spread over to the right that he had to quickly get down, and he has a lot of creep timbers to use there. Hive back on the way, and Fester is the way to go. Spellcaster is great in a low econ situation. We are still at a point where Dark has more potential. I think finds the surround is basically what I'm most worried of, and Cure knows that too. He's got to be very careful with the Army, but he can't just sit back entirely. So there's that. But if Cure does get maxed out again, then the ragtag economy from the Zerg is going to be a big problem.
Yeah. So funny that base that was so long.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Oh, nice hot pickup there, as there's really still not a lot of anti-air, but he's going to go for the drop in to the extractors.
There's nothing here yet, but the infestors are out here, Dragon. Like, to do this, to be the guy that's running around with medevacs, and they have Burrow, is an insane gamble.
That is actually so true right now. More infestors also on their way, going to be popping soon. Scans are at least coming forward, so he is seeing whether or not there are, in fact, like, infestors just on the horizon there, but it is so dangerous.
It is, yeah. And you also still got to be careful about how you manage your scans and your mules. You're not on a super great economy either. But at this point, it should be getting closer to Cure actually winning the economy war. He's getting up to the 3 bases with the minerals to mine. Oh, all right, Ling. Minerals to mine from and mules to drop. Dark, you can see with the arrows, is still winning the economy war actually quite dramatically. That's a 1,500 resource difference when it's 3 arrows. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it might change. It might change very quickly if Cure can actually get this third up and running and kind of retake his his main, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's true, but he does still have, I mean, Dark still has a lot of those newer bases on the right-hand side, although this hatchery looks like it's going to have a hard time getting on up, so it is likely going to get canceled over there. Is Dark actually going to commit to this? I mean, he doesn't really need to at this point. The medevacs are just going to pick up and evacuate on out.
And he's still on a one army Zerg economy. If he chooses incorrectly like he did in the first Ultra battle, he probably dies. So, yeah, don't do it if they're prepared, if they're ready to pull back, if the Liberators are already sieged. Dark is restarting all these upgrades. I actually am interested in the Neural Parasites, maybe thinking about the good old Ghost EMP. He actually does that very well, so I think that's primarily what he's thinking of. It also might help to take out the Liberators, in case the Abducts can't do it, I guess. Yeah, it's good stuff. You're actually reinvesting into a decent amount of starport production, too. He didn't get there before the base trade happened, but it seems to be his late game plan.
Yeah, Fusion Core finally being added on as well to get up that Liberator range upgrade, which may have been hit by a little bit of a nerf, but still pretty effective.
Oh, we finally have that, by the way. The blue arrow going down here. Kira's starting to win out in the economy. It's just really worth noting because as Kira gets a maxed out army again, we are once again in a position where the Terran army is scary. It is 3-3, unless it gets fungal.
As a lot of fungals and a lot of those high health or high energy medevacs going to be taken out as well that have been around for quite a bit of this game.
Yeah, he was getting maxed out, and then that happens. But he can still max out because he actually has a decent economy. But then does Dark have the same capability in a really ragtag game as the left side bases are not as covered by creep? There's a lot of open drop spaces that the fungals cannot cover. You know, it's kind of resetting, but obviously that mini-map is weird.
It really is, and I have to say that there's just more bases for Cure to take that are going to be a little bit more secure. Even the base that Dark is trying to reestablish on that left-hand center side, the one that he's basically tried to be mining from for, I want to say now, like 15 minutes or something, way back when, even that is still very fresh, and I feel like that actually may end up being Cure's base to take if Dark cannot actually mine effectively. That was a lot of banelings for that.
That is a lot of banelings, but Dark, I think, now feeling comfortable with the bank, about 3,000, 1,000 before he entered in there, and clearly Kira's army was not around. That is a huge difference. If Kira's army is closer by, like the planetary's dying as it arrives, that might have been a mistake. But he gets all that damage done, not for free, because banelings are suicidal, but he does get a lot of damage without as extreme of repercussions.
Yeah, I mean, he's trading out quite effectively. You try to go for another little run by to that location, but it looks like he does get pushed back. Now this might be a little bit more costly as Ultras are getting sniped, but a handful of them do manage to still escape on out of there alive, and Dark's still up a little bit in supply, even adding on some Corruptors. Has he burrowed Infestor looking for an opportunity for a big fungal?
Yeah, and even though Kira lost a very safe area, that was bases, that was Sim City, that was the safety on the left side, then he could expand to the right, he does still have things to work with, right? He's got a great army, Liberators as well. He still has extra command centers. Maybe not, actually. EMP does hit some of the ghosts, but I guess Terran's own nerf working against the Neural Parasite.
My cloak actually requires too much energy, and the EMP did not actually do enough.
Oh, there we go again. Round number 2.
Gets two.
Yeah,
yeah.
The Infestor's still not dead, but I think it will very soon. It's still not dead. It's still carrying that ghost, but more importantly, the big old battle is coming in. Kira only slightly off of creep, up against all these spells cast on his army, just did not actually stand a chance. The only good thing was that he's slightly off of creep. Otherwise, that was a disaster.
And Dark claims the game after a very precarious kind of mid-game stage where the base trade was forced out there for Dark. We were wondering, is this the right decision? Well, in the end, you can't argue with the results.
No. And as I said, I feel like the base trade does favor the Zerg. I know there's a lot of like ifs and buts and what about that, but it really does put them in a bad position. And Dark knows it too. He didn't get the time, I guess, to produce banelings or burrow banelings prior to the base trade, which would have been ideal, but he knew that he had to get on top of that production. And then I actually really do like how he approached the finale there. Not the final battle, but I think a lot of other Zergs would have just said that's a no-go zone on the double planetary.
Yeah.
And he chose to attack when Kira, as I said, could not actually punish him for it. So that was, I think, a Dark thing. A lot of other Zergs would have just been like, nah, I'll try some other way.
And it forced Cure into doing something. It forced Cure out of the map, which allowed Dark to take that final actual engagement there. These kind of run-bys and everything, this whole base trade initiation was a very bold maneuver there from Dark, but it absolutely ended up paying off. And then remember, that was all after Dark had fallen so far behind. He took that horrendous fight where he had actually ended the fight, I think, 40, 50 supply or something behind.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah. And he'd done it again in the later stages when the economies were more questionable. He could have thrown the game away. He did play more apprehensively. He played safer while he was waiting for the real stable point of his economy, of his base count, and of his army count. So, like I said, you do see an opening. The Banelings can just roll on through, no repercussions. Okay, a lot of Zergs would take that, but just to even go after that, I think a lot of other Zergs would have just waited for them to expand here and done this. But after not crippling their economy, it could have been very different. I think you're right. Kira pushed out aggressively, thinking I needed to do something, and that's why it was so much of a wide open battle.
Really, really fascinating game there. I think that was I think you were saying there was something similar-ish in GSL, but it really is a pretty unique game.
Yeah,
I feel like that we got a treat for game number 1. But that's just going to mean that a 1-0 lead goes in favor of Dark. And it's kind of funny because I really felt like the first 7-8 minutes of the game, I was just thinking, Kira's playing really well. Wow, this may be the best of 3 that he needs to turn around that 12-0 loss streak that he has or something against Dark. But Dark does it again.
He does. I was actually wondering if that was... So there was a match where Kira would almost always look like he was in the better position in the beginning. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of at Atlanta. Yep. Kira actually looked like he was doing really well, and then again, Dark just punched him in the face. So we move on to game number 2, on into a signee. In the top right for Talon Esports, he is Dark.
And in the bottom left, representing Team Liquid, our Blue Terran player, he is Cure.
The series I was thinking of in the round of 4 at ESL Masters Winter was actually getting clearer in the mind as I'm thinking of it. It was a best of 5, so it's different. But Kira started off with a lot of greed, I believe, and he was really performing quite well, and I would say inarguably in the lead. But then Dark did everything right from then on. He got the Hellion surrounded, he caught some Cyclones out on the map, and then he got like a really good run by, and he ended up winning, I believe, that game and then overall series 3-1. So that makes it a very scary opponent for Cure, because even when you are getting something done correctly, it feels like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, remember that last game even started with decent Hellion trades. It started with the Banshee finding a couple of roaches that were making their way across the map. I mean, Dark was actually trying things and just wasn't really working out. So you're absolutely right to call out that in the past, he's had even bigger leads and better starts, and it's been rough.
Yeah.
So I feel like things almost look like they could have been going a little bit better, but man, Dark just has such ridiculous killer instinct and ways to turn the games around.
Yeah, and it's a very unpracticed game. No one gets into a game like that for practice, so there's certainly things Kira could have done better as he was the loser. We kind of have to focus on that. Obviously, Dark could have done a lot of things better too, but Kira, he did take a while to actually lift his production, but he had the safety of the planetary the entire time, and perhaps he didn't have to move in that way that he did, because he moved down his ramp for the final battle.
Yeah.
And that is very dangerous. Kira's just playing kind of dangerously in general with the Medivacs flying around, man. But Dark had done a great job of being able to get as many obnoxious things on the field as possible. Cracklings on the field, Ultras, Banelings planning the planetaries, Burrowed Banelings, Burrowed Infestors, Vipers getting abducts. He really had a lot of tools, and he used them very well.
Absolutely did. You can see a little bit of that first-person perspective and how fast these two players decide to move around, jumping around between bases as the Reaper harassment is just underway. But we do see on Cure's screen the factory slopping on over for that reactor, and we're going to be seeing a pretty standard-looking opening for both these players. But Dark did actually get a much earlier gas geyser this game, so he's going to have that Zergling speed available.
Right, yeah, he's not going to play the identical opener, but Cure is playing a similar one. He went 3CC once again into the 1-1-1. So I don't know if he's going to go Viking again. I mean, the timing doesn't work out for the first Banshee if you go Viking. You do clear out 1 or 2 Overlords. Maybe, actually. Some Zergs are, well, I guess you always get the first Scouting Overlord, but the second one, that's a big maybe. Anywho, and then you go into Banshees. It's does not have the same punch initially, and the rest of your build order is also a little askew as well, right? An extra amount of gas and minerals into the Viking. So, I mean, just trying to explain like why that was a little odd, and maybe it was some type of mind game, or whatever his plan thereafter just didn't work out very well. But now he's going straight into Banshees, a little more normal. Cloak is on the way, 3cc, how many Hellions and how aggressive are they? He got 10 drones last game, but for a decent amount of Hellions, keep that in mind.
Yeah. Absolutely did have to not only invest in those Hellions, but actually sacrificed all of them in order to get all those drone kills. I have to also say that Kira was able to do some really nice control with the Banshee harassment. We saw earlier also that he kept one of the Banshees alive and was continuously shutting down one of those hatcheries that was trying to be created in the midst of all of the chaos. So Kira did a really nice job with the Banshees. Even if it is not going to be like a Viking first, even if it is scouted, I feel like he still has the control to make use of them.
Yeah, he does seem to. And I do think Banshees are just generally smart versus a guy like Dark, who can play more roach heavy than a lot of other Zergs, although not this game. Melinus is on the way. But then also obviously can cheese and early attack you. So the Banshees, great defensive, can be good offensive on the harassment. I'll see what their potential is this time around. But Dark is the one that's really changing things up. Ling Baneling is going to be on the way. You know, kind of an awkward stutter with a couple of roaches and a lower drone count. Both of them, well, more so than last game even, going very streamlined, 3cc versus 4 hatch TBZ.
Yeah. I was going to actually ask you, because I feel like you were talking about this before, Dark can do really well in the chaos, and when everything is just seemingly nonsensical, he can really find his groove, and we saw that in that last game. In a more standard game, do you feel like Kira has just a better shot if this is just, even if Kira doesn't get that necessarily early game lead like he kind of got in the last game?
If it's a more normal game, is Dark going to be better? I think so still, actually. Because, like, Kira might not have to deal with a straight-up base trade, and he might have one of his more flawless build order executions. And, you know, Dark couldn't, actually. Like, if he lost 10 drones right now, I'd still say that Dark has a way of working with his army that is very odd for Terrans to track. Zig when you're supposed to zag type of situation. And in this case, the zag is a Spire. Great. Come back to the Mutas.
All right. Well, that Spire is going to be in a very difficult to spot location, as the Queens are very much so going to be zoning out these Banshees for that angle, especially now that Cloak has effectively just been expunged, as those Banshees don't really have a whole lot of energy available left. But this 4th base location seems like it's going to have a hard time getting up for a bit.
Yeah, that might have to be canceled.
I feel like you got it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. A little bit of a delay on that. The Mutas will be a surprise, right? I mean, he's definitely not going to be able to get in there and see that there is a Spire, and then reading that there is a Spire potential based off of, like, Ling movement. That's not going to happen either. Can't get close enough to get all the information you want. The first few Mutas might do a decent job of damage and could snowball from there. But there's a reason we don't really see Mutas very much anymore, and I've seen some people attempt them, and it does surprise the Terran, but then if the Terran does get a stable environment, I guess, pretty quickly, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I'll see if Dark can make it actually very oppressive like it used to be in the old days. Double medevac drop hitting prior to the Mutas out. This could do a lot of damage on that base, get another cancel. And we'll see what the timing is like as far as the Ling-Muta combination.
That hatchery's getting awfully low, and there's only Lings over here. Banling's very far behind, so the Marines are able to pick up, head over to the main base. The Mutas are about to pop, so they may be able to start punishing this if the medevacs try to do another pickup and they try to retreat on out. Yeah,
you need to bring Lings with the Mutas, but then if you bring everything together, hopefully you're able to shut this down completely. It is a little weirder because they could maybe unload in the 5th base, that is. Great snipe on that Baneling, by the way. So this is going to continue for a little while longer. This is no longer the main focus, though. This is a distraction. On the left side, Cure has this actual army ready, or not actual army, but he has another army ready to go. Dark realizes that this could be a problem with the drones. The hatchery probably would have lived. He's just playing extra cautious against this. And now, well, obviously Kieran knows about the Mutas. He's actually getting some defense. We won't have the runaway game where 7 SCVs die and then the Terran dies.
Yeah, one Muta actually popped in over there as the Marines are able to catch one of them as they're chasing the Banshee around, or chasing around to the other side of the map. But seems like Kira's going to be able to maintain a lot of map control, force these Mutas to deal with them, although it looks like Dark is setting up for another little counter run by. Is he going to be able to get a lot done here?
Yeah, both Banshees still alive, even though the Mutas can try and take them on. Unfortunately, no more Cloak, yeah. All right, so the Mutas do take out the Banshees. What else is there for Kira's defense? We might have once again a base trade. That would be kind of silly. That'd be kind of crazy. Kira is 8-raxing by the guys. I focused a lot on the Spire because that was abnormal, but he is 8-raxing. He's bringing it out again, and 8rax is really good against Aspire. I think Dark chose poorly as far as his composition for this particular game. The run-by did kill SCVs, but it does not dislodge the attack, nor does it get on top of that production.
Oh, the Hellbats added into the army there for Cure because he kept all those Hellions alive. Is also going to add in so much against such a Ling-heavy composition here. Hatcheries are getting target fire down. A second hatchery may end up falling over here. Like you said, SCVs may have been killed off there for Cure, but at the end of the day, keeps all of his bases alive, and Dark is the one losing all of his.
Right. Cure, you can see his army movement outside of his attack. He is absolutely wary of run-bys. He's like, you're not taking on my army, and you probably can't. Off of creep, with Mutas sucking up a lot of your resources that would have gone into like mass lane baneling, you probably can't dislodge me, so I need to be really careful, sure, but I can attack and I can defend, and that has so far been the case. Dark does manage to buy some more time, but losing 2 bases when you're a Ling player, now you have a Larva problem very, very potentially. We do see a little bit of that bank coming up here, and you just don't have the economy to consistently throw away banelings. Unless Cure literally walks all of his Marines in the banelings. Even though the supplies are very similar, guys, this is very difficult for Dark.
It's a very scary position. There is Burrow coming on out there for Dark, but finally, Cure is able to actually snap back with a little bit of counter aggression, and one single medevac is going to be so annoying for him to deal with, as that is going to be just a distraction for the main army that pops on in over to the third base. Dark is once again going to say the answer is a base trade. So many banelings here to support and break through the wall, to dive into the main base, to take out the third, take out the natural, to take out the main base. Can Cure get the damage done on his side of the map?
I think Cure's fine. He actually had a tank and Marines to cover the tank in the main base. A second tank was about to pop out, and Dark does not have very many defensive banelings, so that's pretty easy to clean up. Things are not as desperate as they were in the first game. Cure has his production. He still has orbitals, and he still feels confident about his army staying on that creep. It does do a pre-spread. It'll probably do well enough against the banelings, and then what else does Dark have beyond that? Mutas in a straight-up fight against 2-2 Marines? Nah.
Dark is literally not mining. He's stuck at 34 minerals. He's
bad.
actually not mining right now. To give you an idea, he has 0 money coming in.
Yeah, pretty bad. It's funny seeing it being a similar supply, but it's really deceiving. Again, unless those Marines walk forward, which they do not, that is the game. Cure brings out the 8rax that I said might not happen because it's what he insisted upon in GSL, and it was Rocky. He does it in a game where he probably felt like it was a powerful build on the map, or it was a great momentum reset. Whatever the reason was, it works out especially well when your Zerg opponent decides Spire.
Yeah.
Like, that is actually a really great time to be a Terran who's 8raxing so many resources into harassing units as the pressure ramps up, and the Mutas can only do so much to help on the defense. Maybe they grab a tank in this scenario, maybe they don't. They just get pushed away by the Marines, right? And then they feel useless and they go for the run-by, which of course Cure is anticipating. He knows this is the only way that a Ling-Baneling Muta composition should really, I think, beat an 8rax properly controlled, the rest of the game going normal. So Cure was on top of things. Dark did what I think he was kind of supposed to, I guess, with the composition, but actually a very awkward game for Dark.
Yeah, very, very difficult to make a whole lot happen with that for Dark, since he went for the gamble. And that's one of the things you have to accept, is that when you try to go for some of these wonkier, riskier plays, sometimes you do just run into a hard wall, and it's not even because your opponent calculated and figured out, oh, I think that you're going to do X and I'm going to hard counter you with Y. It's like sometimes they just pick the build, and you kind of took a risk, and that's sort of what comes with the risk.
Yeah, you know, Spire, I feel like it's attempted to be brought back every once in a while. And I do think it's, you know, good on certain maps and situations, no doubt about it, but it's just one of those lucky breaks for Cure, who gets to go up to a third game versus Dark and maybe finally get a win on his side of the Aligulac. In the top left, we do have the Red Zerg, Dark.
And down here, the bottom right-hand side of the map, the blue Terran player from Team Liquid, he is Cure.
I'm a firm believer that hard counters are very rare in StarCraft, but soft counters do exist. And I feel like that was the setup of the last game. This game should be much harder because the likelihood of Dark going for a Spire again, I think, is extremely limited. Not just because of that game, not just because of the meta, but even the map here in Game 3. And frankly, a lot of his wins versus Cure aren't on Mutus. He doesn't need them to win versus the guy.
Yeah, that is very, very true. We are going to get to see a game number 3, like you were saying. It's kind of funny. I was looking at their match history as well, and a fair number of their best of 3s do go to a 2-1. It is not exactly like Cure always gets absolutely buffed. I think you were even kind of hinting at this before, that a lot of the time Cure does look like he has maybe a positive start or something, but then things go wrong as the series goes further and further into it. So I think this is going to be a very important and telling game for Cure.
Yeah, if you really want to reference, again, Winter, their semifinal, one of the most extreme examples of this is great for Terran, everything else goes poorly, oh, now it's really bad for Terran. Dark's just really good at this. Dark is, I always say that I don't know if he is the absolute best at any of like the stats, for instance, on the cards we have, which are awesome and all that. Maybe he's not the best on any of them, but he's obviously very highly ranked on them. But what he is best at is just being really good at everything. Kind of like a jack of all trades, but almost master of everything instead of the usual adage.
To me, and I will say this as a big Dark fan, I feel like Dark is almost one of the last remnants of this old era of StarCraft player that you talk about, like with an MC or, like some of the old Brood War players, where it feels as though they just kind of pull magic out of a hat constantly. There's like some sheer force of will that exists. Yeah, it's a star power. And I feel like you used to see that with some of the players like an MC or something, but you don't see that really in a lot of the players. And I would even say players as great as like a Serral or something. Serral's really good, but it's not because it feels like he just has sheer force of will. It's just Serral is really good, so he wins anyways. But Dark, it feels like sometimes he wills his way into victory.
Yeah, he is a star. He's a baller. Cure can be as much of a baller. It's just that the Zerg matchup has been giving him some trouble lately. He's trying to get something that at least gives him a little bit to work with. Feels like he's a little in control, like the 8 racks. Okay, I guess that works. That works. And it definitely worked last game. Once again, 3CC into 1-1-1, by the way. Very comfortable with this opener. It's basically safe. I know, 3CC at one point used to not be, I guess, as safe, especially if you had to research Siege. But now it's like, it's pretty normal.
Way back when you used to research. Do you remember how many years ago you had to research Siege?
I think that stopped in 2011, actually.
Was it that long ago?
Because I remember having to research it on Belshir, but I don't know when that map exited the map pool. So I don't know.
Okay, this is such an old upgrade that I feel like I'm going to have a hard time looking this up in the midst of this match.
Yeah, so you are.
I'm like trying to look it up on Liquipedia, and I'm like, this is going to take too long, actually.
Ooh, are we going to have a little Hellbat Marauder attack? Now it's off 3CC, so it's not as fast or potent, but that's exactly what we seem to be setting up to, and there's the armory immediately scouted.
Okay, that's not the most ideal time to have this build scouted, but
right, especially because if that Overlord had died prior to seeing the second gas not taken, or sorry, prior to seeing the armory and it only saw the second gas not taken, it's like, oh, another 3CC. That's so
he finished
cool.
concussion cells, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Or did he?
Okay, see, that's why I was wondering, because the armory just got canceled. I was wondering, could he cancel it?
Well,
did we have concussive finished?
It's just, okay, so he did cancel it. It is 50-50 and it's pretty fast, so cheap, but if you are trying to do the best 3CC build order you can, then obviously you wouldn't just randomly get a Marauder, and Marauder's slow. So it has to say with the Marauder, you can help out if it's Roaches, and hey, it is Roaches, but does give up on the idea, and I think that's very fair. We actually lose less resources. Armory cancel no longer costs as much as it used to.
That's true.
Yeah, not as bad.
Secondary benefit to costing less.
Yeah.
And I want to note, Dark, even though he didn't see the armory cancel, he made like one Roach, and then he just made a swarm of another 5 or 6 drones. So it really does feel like Dark, without even having scouted this, already just has a sense.
I feel like when Dark sees you cheesing or all-inning him, he actually doesn't just like avert his gaze and try and, do other things. He just like looks back at you. He's like, no, you blink. No, you do it. So he has no fear. And Cure, unable to instill the fear with the armory attack that he just don't want to do after it's scouted like that. Still has a 3CC setup. It was a little awkward, it was a little detour, has to get back on track, but it's not the worst. He once went for a Viking, by the way, but this had more to do with the rest of the build. Obviously, he didn't go into Banshees after this. So a Viking to clear out Overlords and then get even more damage done during the attack is kind of common. Now it can be used for, well, Overlord hunting, I suppose. Not that it's finding any. And Dark, as I mentioned, is going into Roaches, but he's adding on +1 melee and a really fast Infestation Pit. So clearly not going to be a big Roach attack, and it's going to be a transfer over into more Ravager, Baneling Ling than anything else. Very fast Hive. That is a 620 Hive.
Okay.
That's cool.
You know, this is something that I do love seeing out of Dark because I really feel like we kind of saw a little bit of a hint of it in game number 1, but Dark is just really good with those Infestors sometimes.
He is extraordinarily good. I actually thought that before the Infestor was changed, he was the one that was really leading the way and that other people would follow. It just, because it got changed, you know, people like to play with the new stuff.
Yeah.
Then suddenly Infestor just, well, he infested it. But anyways, I think he's the OG best one. So Baneling Nest is on the way, but not finished, and there's just not a lot of army over here. This might be a free pick-off for Cure. I think it is. He can just focus it.
Roaches are going to start coming forward, but it looks like most like they're death, and it's buying some time for the hatchery, so you will eventually be able to save this. A Widowmine does not kill a Roach, so that's just going to turn into a Ravager.
Yeah, if he did focus it, he probably would have killed it, but he wanted to grab the Roaches, and especially if that was a solid conga line of Roaches, you just pick one after another. But might have lost a chance to kill it now, might be able to do it a little bit later. One thing I am concerned about for Cure is that this creep spread down the middle of the map is approaching his third, so that's a little sketch. Now, that's not usually the point of contest, so that's why it's usually let go a little more. More so, the fourth base creep spread is where it...
Right on the money! Oh my god, both of the Corrosive Vials. Absolutely beautiful positioning there from Dark. Cure not paying attention, focus on that south side.
Yes, he was, which he does clear up a lot of that creep spread, and the point that I said would be very important. But yeah, losing the second medevac, almost both of them, not what you wanted in exchange. By the way, Dark did forget Carapace for a long time, so the upgrades are a little cockeyed here. Cure going to have that lead once more. Not uncommon in the matchup, but doesn't have to exist. If you went for a fast Revolution Chamber, is what it is. Dark has really fast technology, is what he has. So Hive done. Now just need to include some of those layer upgrades we would usually see already done. Oh, Widowmine's coming out for a Cure. So not with that tank-based play, but rather into Widowmines, Drilling Claws 2, and we do have a fourth base. So this is not going to be an 8-Rax all-in.
No. Cure's going to have to be really careful with all these Marines in the medevacs, though, because those Infestors are constantly just on the border of being able to start fungaling some of these Marines, preventing the pickups, getting the snipe off on one of the medevacs that's already very low on hit points. Hatchery is also still very low on hit points. Bailing's going to get sniped off very quickly. There is that fungal I was talking about.
Oh my god. Oh, Widowmines. Widowmines.
Widowmine's doing a little bit of trader move there.
I am a hater. Widowmine.
Widowmine hater zombie growth.
No,
yeah.
I actually like them, but that was not a cool move, man. Some might call it a meanie move. That's what we do here.
Party foul has something.
Party foul, yes, the PG version.
Yeah.
Fourth base is done. Cure is going to be able to rebuild the units that he just lost, but obviously this is going to deter him from trying to be as aggressive, you think anyways, but Cure just runs around with 7 medevacs that are going to be fungled easily last game. But seriously, this is really taking the wind out, I feel like, of any sales. Cure is trying to find something, and he's really not. Maybe a couple of creep tumors, but it's not like he's dying because of it. He might just be forced into playing a more defensive game. Whereas perhaps if these drops were a little more active, they were constant, they were doing a little more, maybe he would have done a push up to that fourth base. Not anymore.
Yeah. Fungal's potentially going to come in from behind. Not going to happen, though. It looks like just the Widowmine's going to get picked off. And the medevacs may actually buy time where it almost looked like Dark was getting set up on 2 different fronts to hit a timing where Cure was finishing up 2-2. And I'm like, that would be the worst time to push in, but does seem like he's going to pull back to deal with the medevacs.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually Cure is moving out with a pretty large army off to this right side. That is the expansion. Wants to go grab it. The Fungals will demolish the ground forces. Medevacs will live, and I think it's actually a little more important that they do, as this was upcoming. Dark did not know about it, so he is forced to finally give up that hatchery. Cure, I think, choosing very wisely to dip in, kill it, and then dip out.
Yep. Very nice mineral bank being built up here for Dark, though, and Widowmine finally does get a shot off and gets a handful of those lings, but Dark can definitely replace those hatcheries fairly easily for now, as he gets a 4K mineral bank and is continuing to build up a little bit more of that gas bank, but is Dark actually going to be the one that starts to get a bit more aggressive now?
Overlord drops, yo.
Oh, wow,
There's a couple of cheeky Overlord drops. I don't know if it's going to be Ultra. Okay, Mastling drops into perhaps that natural. Oh, boy. If he also added a Nidus Worm, which he could absolutely afford, double whammy it, oh, geez, that is so dangerous. That's actually when a Terran can literally lose because they also start to run back home and then they don't have defenses on the front lines. That is really the scariest thing about the drop. The drop can do maximum damage in the main base, perhaps. That's not good. But if the Terran also panics, that's worse.
Absolutely. Things can fall apart so quickly. Parasitic Bomb started stacking there on 2 low health medevacs, but here comes that Overlord drop. I think Dark is probably going to try and set up something else at the front lines at the same time. It's going to at least reveal the army at the front lines as those Overlords are going to be popping on forward. Investor ready with a fungal, not actually revealed.
Kind of a pre-split a little bit, so not too bad. And the knowledge, you'd expect a scan. Oh, I think they retreated. It did not retreat. Ling drop into the natural. So again, if they panic, if they pull back everything, then okay, the 5th base might have to be lifted. It might be killed instead. Okay, it does lift it. But the 4th base might also be, or sorry, the 3rd might be in trouble too. Because Kira's pulling back his almost an entire army. Needs to really try and think this through. How much do I want to send to the main base? How much do I want to send to the natural? How much can I give up as far as damage just to make sure that I don't die on the front lines?
Yeah, and Dark is going to be able to push a lot of this army back. Ghost on the front line is going to get taken care of there. But Parasitic Bombs also take care of a lot of those medifacts. I love there's not just burrow play, there's also the Overlord drops that just went to the corner that are still alive and can drop back in later. Looks like he goes back in immediately, goes after the Ghost Academy. I think Cloak just finished researching, so that is at least going to be out of the map. But now Ghost Academy taken care of, that's quite annoying.
Yeah. At the very least, those Vikings pop out at a very opportune time. Clear that up about as fast as you would expect. 3-3 is going to finish alongside. We've been upgrading the armor for the medevacs and Widowmines, for instance. So we do have that very powerful Terran force. Dark, had he not forgotten Carapace, might have actually been very close in the upgrades. As it is, upgrade deficit. Kira could take some pretty good fights, especially if he's got some Sin City with him.
Yeah, Carapace upgrade is going to be a very big thing to be missing right now. Dark is kind of taking a weird fight as a handful of his units are on the right-hand side, a handful of them are on the south side. Big fungal growth coming out on the right-hand side, but it does seem like Dark is going to get overwhelmed.
Yeah, it does. Well, he does remax pretty quickly. So he's like, did he lose that fight? He's maxed out. Yeah, because he has 8 ultras on the way. But that was another awkward engagement. It just was a later, more bank-filled time, and I think less awkward, actually, than the first game.
That's actually very true. I think the banker absolutely covered a lot of how bad that fight really could have been. But Fusion Core going down. Nidus Worm that you were talking about happening. Not quite paired up with the Overlord drops, but still at least paired up with some of the Ling harassment.
Yeah. The Vikings actually didn't clear out all the Overlords, by the way. They were pulled to the front lines to take out those Vipers, which I think is smart. They can deal with the Overlords later. Liberator's finally on the way as well. Kira's once back again to the macro stage he was in the first game, and maybe we'll see him actually get to complete it with Lib range. But Dark is ready to go once more.
Yeah, Queen's also being pulled to the front lines as well. They're not going to have creep to transfuse, but does it really matter? The Ultras are buying so much time and space for the rest of these units. You start charging on forward. Ultras actually in the mineral line as well. I think that Cure should be able to push this army back eventually, I want to say, when he gets it back into a choke point, but this is still getting pretty awkward.
Yeah, this is not a great enough engagement for Cure. You know, he didn't have anything pre-fight, EMPs, snipes, anything really. Dark just collapsed in on him alongside the Nidus Worm. Everything is going wrong here for Cure as he's now down 70 supply. Dark gave him a game, made him feel nice about himself. But at the end of the day, we'll clobber him 2-1.